Jonathan Nyemb joining us from elsewhere in Paris. Thanks very much. We just heard Barack Obama in our report there. He seemed to be enjoying himself, and so did his audience. What did you make of the speech?
I think this is a very exceptional speech. I think apart from the regular narrative on security, corruption, governance and trade, it's the first time we hear a message from an American president which really resonates to the aspirations of African youth. Let me take two examples. The first one is the message on entrepreneurship. The president is clearly calling on more entrepreneurs, young African entrepreneurs on the continent, with entrepreneurship as a way not only to fight unemployment, but also, and most importantly, a means to unleash the potential of all the young African innovators that we have on the continent. So this is a really important message for the African youth, and it truly resonates to what we see now on the continent. The second message, which I think is also very important, is really about embracing African values. We saw the president making several references to late President Mandela's values around diversity, collaboration, dialogue, dignity. And this is right into the Ubuntu philosophy that the President Mandela was really fond of. And today in the continent, we really see this Ubuntu philosophy not only as a political project, but now also as an economic and cultural project through ideas such as collaborative economy, open source, and many different projects. So it's very critical for us to hear the President Obama embracing these two messages and calling on African innovators to not only shape the continent, but also shape the world. So Africa is now no longer only a place where we can see consumers, but it's also a place which can contribute to the globalization and shape it. So it's a very, very important message for us and for the African youth.
Indeed, there did seem to be a lot of positivity coming out of that speech, but Barack Obama did also bring up issues including corruption, poor governance, leaders staying on beyond their term limits, that kind of thing. Now, talking about it is one thing, but at the same time, the US has been criticised for also glossing over, for example, alleged corruption in the Ethiopian elections, where this summit was hosted. Should the US maybe take a harsher stance with countries that aren't living up to the kind of expectations that Obama talked about?
I mean, the president, I think, made it very clear that, nothing is perfect on the continent, and there are still a lot of improvements to be made. And he clearly also mentioned that it's the case all over the world, in the US, in Europe. But I think what is very important, and that what he said, is that it's on African, it's on the African people to decide, what their future is. And what we really want now is to see the civil society, formed on the continent, not only at the national level, but at the Pan-African level, to fight against corruption, to fight against...
For example, though, excuse me for cutting in Burundi recently, we have seen people rising up and saying that they're not happy about what's going on. It didn't really seem to go anywhere. Some people might say that maybe you need some international intervention from somebody like Barack Obama on those kinds of issues.
I mean, it's true, because the President Obama mentioned Burundi in his speech, but, the thing is that we also have to understand that, on the continent, as is the case all over the world, it's not only about elections. We not only have to stand, a few days before elections. It's a process that, has to go over during the whole life of a country. So we really need to be organized as a civil society, as I said, at a national level, but also at a Pan-African level, all over the political life of a country. So we don't have only to wake up, a few days before elections. So I think that's a problem, The problem is lack of organization. So we need to call for more structure and more organization in civil society in our several countries.
Well, thanks very much for giving us your thoughts, Jonathan Nyemb, Cameroonian lawyer and activist, speaking to us there.